I'm so very pleased to be able to introduce to you our next guest speaker who's going to take us up to our lunch break. That is Vanessa Nakate. Now, Vanessa is joining us from Kampala. She is a long-time climate activist, and she's also the founder of the Rise Up movement. And Vanessa's going to give us some opening thoughts, and then I've got a little bit of time to ask her a couple of questions as well. So, Vanessa, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Nakate. I am from Kampala, Uganda, a country that has one of the fastest changing climates in the world. Historically, Africa is responsible for only 3% of global emissions, and yet Africans are already suffering some of the most brutal impacts fueled by the climate crisis. Rapidly intensifying hurricanes, devastating floods, and withering droughts. Many Africans have lost their lives, while countless more have lost their homes, farms, and businesses. The droughts and floods have left nothing behind for the people, nothing except for pain, agony, suffering, starvation, and death. We are watching farms collapse and livelihoods lost due to drought, floods, and swarms of locusts. Climate change has disrupted weather patterns in countries like mine, causing shorter and heavier rainy seasons and longer dry seasons. Again, farms are being washed away by heavy rains destroying crops, and crops are getting burnt in intense dry seasons. We saw the locust invasion in countries like Kenya, eating everything they came across in the farms. The climate crisis means hunger and death for many people in my country and across Africa. This is not a hypothetical situation. Food scarcity is an existential threat right now. The climate crisis is leaving millions of people hungry because there is no food. The emissions creating global heating are not just coming from coal-fired power plants and diesel and petrol vehicles. Agriculture and land use together is about 25% of our global emissions. Nitrogen fertilizers for food production threaten our chances to keep global temperatures from rising more than 1.5 or even 2 degrees. The animal agriculture industry alone accounts for up to 15% of global emissions. 83% of the world's cultivatable land is used to feed livestock, yet livestock only provide 18% of our calories. If we were to change towards a plant-based diet, we could save up to 8 billion tons of CO2 a year. Of course, not everyone has the ability to make such changes, but most of us could do something. And it is those who have the most power who also have the most responsibility. We need to drastically cut emissions towards zero starting now. But in addition to reaching zero carbon, we must also reach zero hunger. According to the UN, more than 820 million people did not have enough food to eat in 2018. That is 1 in every 9 people in the world, and that number continues to rise. Some of the key drivers of hunger and food insecurity include conflict, instability, and climate change. Conflict and instability have increased and spiraled triggering greater population displacement, which leads to a greater demand for food in places where there is already a shortage. On top of this, climate change is affecting agricultural productivity, food production, and natural resources. So the climate crisis is a food crisis, and the food crisis is a humanitarian crisis. There is no climate justice without ensuring that there is food justice. So I say this to the leaders gathered here: stop investing in fossil fuels, stop digging up and burning fossil fuels, and stop forcing fossil fuels back into the ground where we grow the food that sustains us. We cannot eat coal and we cannot drink oil. Thank you.
Vanessa, thank you very much indeed for that very powerful presentation. I know there's a little time delay on this line between me in London and you in Kampala, but I've just got time for one question. And I get the sense from what you said that you don't believe that the leadership in the rich, industrialized world is yet shaping up to its responsibilities for the climate crisis and not doing enough to help people in Uganda and other parts of the developing world to really cope with the consequences, particularly in terms of food supply. What would you like to see the rich world commit to right now?
Thank you very much. We all understand the historical events that led to the climate crisis. That is why the developing world cannot be left behind. That is why climate justice cannot only be seen in the developed world. There is no climate justice if it isn't global enough and if it doesn't include everyone. There are solutions that we know can work for people in my countries right now. They may not be moonshot technologies, they may not be rocket science kind of technologies, but they are solutions we believe can work right now. For example, I can talk about one of the projects that I am working on, which I started, and it involves the installation of eco-friendly cook stoves in schools. This is a solution that is already on ground. This is a solution that is already creating change. This is a solution that is keeping students in school. I mean, no child can study on a hungry stomach. And with these eco-friendly stoves, we know that we are providing food, clean food for the students, and also we are saving the planet. So there are a lot of projects, there are a lot of developments that need to be worked on right now, that need to be supported right now, so that we can keep students in school, like the Vash Green Schools project. And did you know that keeping girls in school is one of the most powerful solutions that we have to the climate crisis? Project Drawdown lists 100 solutions that we need to cut global emissions. And listed as number 5 is educating girls and family planning. But we don't hear about this. Do we see any climate finance directed to educating girls or family planning in the developing world? So we need to, actually, leaders need to stop thinking beyond moonshot technologies and think about solutions that are already working right now, that need to be supported right now, that need to be financed right now on a large scale. We need every solution possible to be able to fight the climate crisis. Because with the climate crisis, then there is no food security.
Vanessa, you speak incredibly powerfully and you come up with some really concrete examples and solutions as well. So I thank you on behalf of everybody involved in the Forum on the Future of Agriculture. Thanks so much for joining us from Kampala today. We really, really enjoyed your contribution. Thank you very much indeed.
It was my pleasure.
Well, I'm so glad that we were able to hear from Vanessa Nakate at the end of a fascinating discussion, which, let us be honest, involved corporate leaders, think tank leaders, obviously a farmer from the prosperous European perspective, albeit a farmer with some real problems and some very interesting thoughts about the future. It was, I think, very important to wrap up this element of our FFA, which is devoted to making food systems more resilient in terms of climate change. It was important to hear from Kampala and to get the terrific input of Vanessa there. So it's been such a fascinating discussion for me to chair this morning. I hope you've enjoyed it too. We're pretty much out of time before lunch, but before we break for lunch, a final word from Mark.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Well, terrific morning. I mean, you couldn't get more, I think, wrapped into it than what we've had. And I think what we heard from Vanessa there at the end is certainly what struck me is, it's from the abstract to the reality. I mean, she absolutely nails it on the head. We talk sometimes in forums like these hypothetically, but what's happening on the ground is very real to people like Vanessa. And of course, the panel session, as you said, I mean, we could have let that run. I mean, it was so engrossing. And some of the arguments that we heard are pretty provocative. And yet, as I think one of the panelists said, it is a complex world, and it's probably not either or. There is good and bad, and what we all do as individuals and as organizations. So a thoroughly stimulating morning. And again, thank you to you, Stephen, for your moderation. That does pretty much wrap things up for the morning. Hopefully you're stimulated by all of that. If you're not, nothing will do it. It is lunchtime now here in Central Europe, maybe even just slightly after lunch. So we encourage you to take a break now, step again into the exhibition zone. Plenty of our partners and supporters there to nourish you with their ideas, if that's what you want, and also in the networking zone. And for the eagle-eyed of you on the platform, you will notice that we have a kitchen that is available for you to virtually enter and peruse. There are recipes there that are healthy, nutritious, and tasty, and also sustainable, I'm told, and some show cooking as well to inspire you further. So off you go, enjoy your break. We'll be back here at 1:30 Central European Time. I think that's right, 1:30 Central European Time, where we will be looking at healthy food for all at scale. Bye for now.